Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at gcnlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked? Here we go. And I'll say correctly, too. USA Prepares Activist Radio. Kyle's engineering the broadcast in Minnesota. I'm Vincent Finelli. We're delighted you're in class today. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. Welcome, Doc Ram.
Good morning, Vincent. Thank you. And thank you all out there that have been supporting my work and me with kind words and buying books. I just thank you.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting you say that, Rick, because that's kind of what I did this week as well. Okay. Well, Rick, I am kind of frosted, and I'd like to teach a little bit of class today about what do you do when it's a David and Goliath situation, where you are David and the big bad machine is oppressive, and they don't care about you, and they're the ones who manufacture the products that you may end up buying, and you may think that they're really good because they've got great claims on their website as to how good they are and how much they care about their customers. And then when you end up buying one of those products and you call their customer support team, you find out that they really don't mean what they say, at least in my opinion.
It is.
So, Rick,
Vincent, it's
yes?
a changing world with customer
and I don't
service.
like it.
It's no longer about customer service.
Yeah, it's about profit, in my opinion. So, Rick, let me just give you a thumbnail.
It's a war going on.
Well, you know, those are exactly the words that came to my mind before the broadcast. I wanted to tell our class that I am engaged in a war that I did not start, but I plan on prevailing in this war. And the reason it may seem like I'm whining, okay? Class, that is not the point, and that's not the purpose. The purpose of what I'm about to say is to teach you a way of dealing with these companies that take advantage of you, that let you believe, either through lies of commission or lies of omission, that they are here for you and that you're important, and they design their products to be the best, and you're going to be well taken care of. And I don't think that's the case. And a simple point is, if you bought a center punch or a pin punch from Sears or Roebuck and Company and had the Craftsman label, and you bought one with those lifetime warranties, the best in its class back in the 70s, and then it breaks, and then you bring it back assuming that they really meant what they said, and then you find out they don't have them anymore. Oh, we don't make those anymore. Now what do? They've got substandard ones. They've got ones that they may be able to order. You know, it might take a week or so to get one in. You can drive that 100-mile round trip back to Sears and get that $10 punch or that $8 punch. You can do that. But it's not the same one that you bought, thinking that you'd be able to get it replaced if it ever broke. And that's why you bought it from Sears. Otherwise, you would have bought a cheaper one at half the price years ago.
Well, the deal is...
So here's...
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. So this is going to take me several minutes to explain this story. So here at our farmhouse, we have a lift. It's an automotive lift, and we use it to put our cars up in the air, and we get under them, and we work on the exhaust system, shock absorbers, suspension, transmissions, engines, oil changes, changing the tires. Okay, that's why we bought this lift. It's about $3,000. So keep in mind that this is less expensive than a car, less expensive than a house, more expensive than a refrigerator, freezer, or other appliances that you have. Okay? So it's a significant purchase, a $3,000 piece of gear. When was this? This was about 11 years ago. All right. So we have this rotary lift, and what it does, it's maybe 1,500 pounds, and it has two posts, and it has arms that go under the cars, and you push a button which engages an electric motor, which drives a hydraulic pump, which pumps hydraulic fluid through hoses that lift the car via hydraulic cylinders. Now, the hoses initially leaked. They seeped. Hydraulic fluid came out through the pores, kind of like a soaker hose. And it bothered me. I thought, I'm getting underneath this thing, and I'm putting this car or truck up in the air, and I sure hope these hoses don't fail, and the car, comes down, gets supported by the locks, but I sure would hate to have it come down, flying down a foot, and then jam into the locks and maybe fall over. So I contacted the lift company. It's Rotary brand, Rotary Lift. They say they're the best in the business. I'm paraphrasing. And through some guidance from me, they decided that they would replace the hoses. They didn't want to do it. Well, the new hoses leak, just like the old ones did. And they say engineered in Italy, made in China. So I maintain that these hoses are substandard. I called Rotary Lift yesterday during the broadcast break, and what they tell me, they told me that, well, the hoses, after a couple years, they do this. Really? They do this? So they puddle on the floor of your shop because they're porous and they know it? So now what they're saying is they admit that there's a problem, but no, they're not going to do anything about it. Why? Because they're warranted for 90 days. So I explained this to them, and they sent me back an email after I sent them the model number and the serial number, and they said, oh, yeah, we've got you on record, but we replaced those hoses, and they only have a 90-day warranty, so we're not going to do it again. So Vinny's frosted. So here is my letter to Rotary. Now, the guy's name is Nate Monroe. He's the Rotary Lift Technical Product Consultant. Now, the reason I'm going to read you this letter is I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's probably like 6 pages. But I'm going to read just parts of it so that you understand what you can do if you're in a situation where you're frosted because you feel that you've been taken advantage of by the big bad machine. Okay, so here it is. Nate Monroe. I get it. You don't care about Rotary Lift successive hose failures. In my opinion, your China-made products are substandard and could be dangerous. Let's see. I suspect a nationwide recall is in order. Should we find out? I'll post this email on my website. In my opinion, Rotary has become just like too many other corporations in the United States of America. I see it as profit, profit, profit. It looks like nobody cares about the customer anymore. Ford Pinto, design and manufacturing defect they know about, deaths resulted, here's the link. And so I sent him a link about the fiery crashes that involved people being burned to death in Ford Pintos. Chevrolet, to me, they seem to ignore their ignition switch problem defect, people died, then they admitted the design and manufacturing failure. Here's the link. Again, more people died. I can no longer recommend Rotary Lift products, and you've lost me as a fan and a customer. I am now the opposite. I will speak about this on the air on my nationally syndicated radio broadcast and discuss how you know the hoses that you provide can and do seep. And you offer a ridiculous 90-day hydraulic hose warranty. Is that because you know how poorly made these hoses are? Or would you offer a longer warranty and be proud to stand behind a well-made, durable product? You should be ashamed of yourselves. My next step includes contacting Walmart, a customer of yours, and suggest that they check to see if they are experiencing the same poor performance of rotary hoses as I have. Here is what you say about your lifts on your website. Rotary Lift understands what we can make your shop more successful, and our dedicated team of engineers has proven this, along with continued in-house innovation and attention to providing long quality and long-lasting lifts. 2 sets of long-lasting hoses that only last 2 years before leaking, that's a failure to me. Also, your warranty, or also your website claims rotary lift policy. Every rotary lift employee, channel partner, and supplier is accountable to meet or exceed the expectations of all customers and continually improve their products, processes, and service. Nate, you and your hoses have failed to meet my expectations of rotary lifts. Are you accountable as your policy claims? And your CEO has failed, and the board of directors has failed. You should all be fired now. Let's see if rotary means what it says on your website. So far, from my vantage point, your claims are less than true. The hose failures are a case in point. And it talks about their website claims ISO 9001 certification and the highest standards and all that. And then I say, none of my other hydraulic hoses have failed in this way, nor as soon. Typically, they last 24 years when exposed to outdoor conditions. Yours stay inside, are climate controlled, and do not move. And the other hoses I have are Caterpillar, International Harvester, John Deere, Ford, Chevrolet, Dodge, and Mercedes. I believe I know what the problem is, and I'll save you the time and effort by telling you. Your made-in-China hoses do not stand up to automatic transmission fluid and deteriorate quickly. Unfortunately, your manual states that you can use Dexron 3 automatic transmission fluid or hydraulic fluid. So now you know what I believe the problem is. And so I list what their manual says about hydraulic fluid. And I say, I will be sending a copy of this email to your CEO, Vice President of Sales and Marketing, Chairman of the Board of Directors, and our friends at your competitors. And I list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 competitors. If you have a change of heart and a change of mind and decide that your customers are the reason why your business exists, please contact me and I will report on air what you've decided to do. That would be nice. Until then, your name is MUD, M-U-D. And here's what MUD means. And I send him a link to what MUD means. Disgusted, disgruntled, and ashamed to own a rotary brand lift, Vincent Finelli. There you go. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us, and I just went into a first segment rant about rotary lifts and their lack of attention to their products and their concern for making what I would consider defective products and selling them, and then not standing behind the product. So that's how I felt, and I wanted to read that, and I'm going to send that, as I said, to their board of directors, and I'm going to recommend that they fire. I need to do a little bit of more work on this particular document, and I'm going to recommend that they fire their customer service representative. But I don't believe it's really all his fault. I believe that this poor attitude of customer service comes from the top. I believe it is sanctioned by the CEO and the vice president of Rotary Lift Corporation. That's what I believe.
This is the tip of the iceberg.
And that's why I went into
Rotary. It's not about vice presidents. It's about our times today. And where it's happening in everything. And your Goliath is nothing. You're talking, right now, you spent $3,000 on this thing, and you're talking hundreds of dollars. I personally, with 3 different Goliaths, have in the last year lost at least $40,000. I could have bought my home and had my girlfriend move in with me. And because of this, instead, I don't want her in the line of fire, and so I'm going to have to probably step down, step away, and hide, and go do something like work at Bi-Mart. It's, and like I have a lawyer, and he's gone. Why? Because he all of a sudden had a lawsuit on him. Now, these Amazons, the ones you're talking about, are petty. This is across the board in everything. And I remember when Sears and Roebuck was different than it is today. It was, when I was a child, the whole thing was different, and there was this assurance that if something wasn't right, they would make it right, even if it was a loss to them. That's different now. The concepts of public relations and customer service and goodwill, Who cares? It doesn't matter. There's lots more where that came from. And China is not our problem. China and Russia, it's about capitalism and the concepts of what capitalism leads toward. And greed is not good. It's one of the deadly sins, or a fallen demon, or whatever thing you want to call it. And yet, our whole society is based on that. And our children have no... I'm reading an article right now that says well over 8 million children are now on psychiatric drugs. Why is that? Doctors wanting to make money. It's not about sickness. It's not about chemtrails. It's not about aliens. You want to know what an alien is? It's most likely these corporate leaders. That's what I think. They're not human. I'm sorry.
Well, you know, Rick, I think you're right.
You know,
I think you're right.
Gun control because of all the shootings in high schools. I remember when I was in high school, I took a weapon to school and I didn't shoot anybody. Why did they shoot them out? Well, let's see. 97% of all the recent shootings in high schools, kids were on pharmaceutical meds. That's page 1. Page 2, they were taught from the get to have less consideration for the importance of life because of the games they play. Page 3. That idea of, the thing goes down and down, and what they're trying to do is have these collateral damages. They take our weapons away from us. They use our children to picket, saying, arms and weapons. I don't have a problem with not owning an AK-47. I don't need an automatic weapon. But if they try to take... There is a movie called Amerigeddon. I posted it. It's free. It was by, what's his name's son, Mark. Chuck Norris's son, Mark, put out this movie called Amerigeddon, where the Russians on Agenda 21 show up at this farmhouse wanting to collect his weapons. And what happens next? The whole thing is not real. It's fake news. It's fake products. They're meant to break down and need replacing because they're not selling you something as a tool. They're selling you an idea that you invest in that doesn't work. That's
hold
exactly what
hold
it's
that
about.
thought. We'll be right back. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us, the real Fox Mulder of the X-Files. And Rick, Werner Bach, a USA Preparedness instructor in New Brunswick, Canada, is on the line. Welcome, Werner Bach.
Yeah, good morning.
By the way.
Don't be too much in a hurry about praising it. I thought that...
I love it out there. I think that where you're living is very, very cool.
I don't think so.
You mean
it looks nice from the outside.
Tomorrow that you're getting the weather?
Yeah, but as I say, New Brunswick and here the maritime provinces, they look nice from the outside, so they can entice investors to invest in the province, in the eastern provinces. Most of them, they are financially bankrupt. But once
Nova Scotia was possibly my ideal small farm community concept.
It was, but it is not anymore. Neither is New Brunswick. Neither is...
What happened?
Agenda 21, globalization, control of all the resources, and first and foremost, the food. And the food processing. And right now, sick people is the biggest business.
Yeah.
Here in this province of New Brunswick, 46% of all government expenditures go to healthcare. And we got the sickest population here on the North American continent.
Yeah.
As I say, we have to cut through all the crap and all the propaganda we are getting from mainstream media and from political whores who want to get re-elected, so they get their 2 terms in office and they got a secure pension.
Yeah, I get it. I'm understanding. I still love that area. My memories of Nova Scotia and New Brunswick hold very deep, fond memories for me.
And as I say, most of the people, they are decent people. They were decent people. But now, about the last 40 years, a bunch of criminals have taken the upper hand. And what it says in the Bible, sometimes Satan appears as an angel of light. And they want to be portrayed as the good people. But they got all those modern technologies with directed energy weapon and all the military secret weapons that are available. There is a.
So why did you call? What's going on? What did you want to talk about?
Oh, I want to talk about. We shall look below what's going on and not buy the crap we are getting served by the mainstream media, because the mainstream media is in with this.
Werner, did you want to talk about directed energy weapons?
Oh, yeah. I have it well documented for nearly 40, or for over 40 years, how the old maritime life, sustainable economy and self-sufficiency and producing healthy food, how it had been sabotaged over the last 40 years by infiltrators in the government and a whole criminal element. And I've documented it when I first encountered where a local clique started killing my animals. And once I had enough evidence, the only concern of the government and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police was to shut me up. And I wasn't the only farmers, and one of their favorite ways of shutting people up, declare them psychiatric nutcases. Feed them into the psychiatric system by making up lies and basically getting them out of the picture. And what I found out, the psychiatrists they use, nearly all of them, they come from third world countries. And what I said and what I've encountered, it's preferable driving a BMW here in Canada than being sent back to Nigeria or Pakistan or Bangladesh or India. So they just click their heels and do what the masters tell them.
Werner, are you going to share with us what happened to you? You were locked up, right?
Oh, I was locked up twice, in 1975 and 1976. Up on false accusations brought forward by this criminal clique who wanted to get my farm, get me off the farm. And I wasn't the only. I was an immigrant, And but what I found out, the same thing had been done to decent, hard-working maritime farmers, Canadians, by this very same clique. And we got here the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, who got an super image abroad. But what I found out, it is not royal, it's a rotten Canadian Mounted Police. They are corrupt from one end to the other. And their only concern was to sweep all those nasty things underneath the great Canadian carpet.
Werner, you were locked up, as you say, on trumped-up charges, and you were put in a psychiatric hospital? Yeah,
in 1975.
And for how long?
5.5 weeks in 1976. Again for 3.5 months.
Class, let me tell you what I know. I know that a phone call was made to 911 about a woman on the East Coast. And so this senior citizen called 911, said, I'm worried about this woman, and she's over 100 miles away. I think she might hurt herself. 2 cops show up, put this woman in shackles, straitjacket, haul her out of her house, put her in for a 72-hour psych evaluation without her consent. That's the kind of stuff that can happen. I know it can happen.
Without probable cause?
Correct.
Vincent, when I went the regular way trying to and have a look into my files. The very same perpetrators were being listed as a complainant, but the nature of the complaint was being blacked out. This in the official RCMP files, because I was considering about suing the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and the New Brunswick and Canadian government.
So you're telling us that you were incarcerated against your will, and you wanted to see why, and it was blacked out, and you can't even find out why you were incarcerated.
I found out the very same fellow who made the complaints, him and his clique, they were involved in killing my cattle. And
what did they do? What did they do to your cattle?
Oh, they basically killed them with directed energy, with the lasers and masers. It's well documented. I made a YouTube about it, Farmer's Ordeal, and I encountered mass cover-up by the veterinarians. So I started doing autopsies, and then I looked around what was the cause of death of many of my neighbors, and there were parallels, because what killed those cattle there are all indications that it killed some of my neighbors too. And I was supposed to have threatened one of the perpetrators with a gun. When I realized to what extent it was this clique and how powerful they were, I immediately sold my gun and deposited the sales slip with the local, with the regional detachment of the RCMP, because 5 months earlier, another farmer, a young farmer, had been found shot in his barn.
I've heard not exactly this story, but there are other instructors who have property that the local, we'll say, county alleged representatives want to steal, and they make up charges. They have people arrested, and they literally prevent them from earning a living, so they'll lose their farms. It's unbelievable, the kind of stuff that's going on. You've heard, class, that the cops plant evidence on farms and then arrest the farmers and then take the farms under the statutes that they have to confiscate property. This is the kind of stuff that's going on in the United States. This is true. You can look it up on the internet.
Vincent.
Yes.
A few years ago, here at the local CBC, they commented a few times, oh yeah, the cream always rises to the top. And I phoned them up and I gave them hell. I said, if you fellas ever milk cows and you let the bucket with the milk sit there, the cream rises to the top, but above the cream there rises the light scum and the light dirt.
That's correct.
And that is
literally.
That is exactly the situation, what I have encountered now and what I'm seeing is going on, not just only here in Canada, not just only in North America, but it's going on all over the world.
Werner, let me share with our class a little bit more of the backstory. So, you left Germany to buy some property here. You took very few possessions with you, and you started all over as a farmer. Is that correct?
Yes, that's the way it was. I bought the farm with the Farm Credit Corporation, a federal credit or loan agency, that gave loans to farmers. And this farm had been on the market for over 2 years. Nobody wanted to buy it. But the local people knew what was the business behind, because among those local cliques, over the years, every so often, they spilled the beans,
Werner, you wanted to talk with Dr. Richard Allen Miller about energy-directed weapons that you feel have been used against you and your animals, your cattle. Would you help us understand what is happening and what has happened when we come back from this break? Dr. Richard Allen Miller is with us, docram.com. Also, richardallenmiller.com, Richard A-L-A-N Miller.com, if you'd like to peruse the website and consider purchasing the offerings that he has, the books that he's written. Werner, you were telling me off the air on the phone a few days ago that you have had some experiences in the past with your animals, and you believe that they are a result of directed energy weapons, and also that you feel that directed energy weapons have been used against you personally, even recently, and you ended up in the hospital as a result. Can you share with us those details so that Dr. Miller can give you his opinion as to what has happened?
Well, before the break, I mentioned about directed energy, and what it started out there about 40 years ago. I realized that the animals that had been killed and that died, some of them within the next few hours, and others, they died, they were hung on for about another week. And since I had been lied to by the veterinarians, I started doing autopsies. And I documented the damage it did do internally to the animals and what was the cause of death. And I narrowed it down, the modification of the atmospheric nitrogen that normally sustains life, the oxygen and the nitrogen, with the heat-producing frequency focused on the nose of the animals. The animals had then third-degree burns. They modified the atmospheric air, the nitrogen. They oxidized the nitrogen into nitrogen oxide, nitrogen dioxide, and nitrogen trioxide. And when inhaled, it forms nitric acid, together with the moisture in the respiratory tract and in the digestive tract. And nitric acid is the most destructive acid. It even eats, corrodes holes into steel plates, you know. And the oxygen, when a UV frequency, a combination of frequencies being used, UV frequency, it changes the oxygen into ozone. And when inhaled, it forms hydrogen peroxide. And this is what I documented, where some of the lungs, they were completely white. And other internal organs, it caused massive hemorrhaging of the internal organs, massive corrosive damage to the digestive tract, massive corrosive damage and hemorrhaging of the cardiovascular system and everything. And when I documented it, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't way out in left field, so I came across research that had been done by Dr. Richter, Dr. Munzat, and Dr. Menzel and published in PubMed, where in laboratory trials they had exposed laboratory animals, rats, to those modified atmospheric air. And they confirmed what I had found out too. But later on,
Linda Moulton Howe has just written an article about the animals and wildlife down here in southern Oregon, all going silent. And she's correct. Something is going on. I am uncertain whether or not it's related to chemtrails, but I will say this. Yesterday was one of the worst days I can remember in this year for the dispersal of these aerosols. It is rampant. I can sense that it's affecting my own health. I can't quite put my finger on who's doing it or why. We know that some of the aircraft that are dispelling these aerosols are coming out of Canada. That's up out of Chilliwack, and that they are returning from Klamath Falls down here in Oregon. That's the West Coast stuff. Now, beyond that, I have no idea why or what they are doing. I know that it's got to be extremely expensive, because an aerosol, just flying an aircraft at that altitude, is $10,000 an hour. Now, right out of the gate, just for fuel. So why they're doing this and who is budgeting this and for what purposes, plural, I have no idea. I can speculate, and it goes crazy. But it's I wish there was some explanation.
Yeah. Werner, do you want to tell us what's happening to you personally on the other side of the top of the hour news? Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. Werner Bach in New Brunswick, Canada. Werner, you were telling us about what you believe happened to your animals, that they were killed, and also you believe that there is the use of directed energy weapons involved. Please tell us the rest of the story.
Vincent, I don't believe it. I proved it. I have definite evidence about the use of this directed energy. From the third-degree burns on the animals, circular burns about 2 inches in diameter, generally. When they were closer with the device, they were maybe just only a quarter of an inch. Where it had burned holes right into the noses of the animals or into the flanks of the animals. And about the evidence of a UV frequency being part of it, when one morning I was coming out and there were 2 brown cows. Overnight, they had 2 circular spots on their flanks where about 2 inches in diameter, where the hair had turned completely white. I documented it. I took photos of it and everything. And gradually over the years, there is this issue of cattle mutilations and testing weapons and or protocols on animals to determine what they will have on life itself. I am well familiar with some of this. Do you know, or have you ever heard of Linda Moulton Howe? Have you heard of her? I spoke to her several times over the years, and I finally got so fed up with her when the last time she said to me, I only investigate cattle mutilations done by UFOs and aliens. Yeah, I'm sorry about that part. The only reason I asked is that she is the only one that I know of at this moment investigating these aspects. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't others out there, and that's why I'm talking about it now, because if any of you that are listening are aware of others that are doing studies like hers but different, I would like to know that, because I think what you're describing is quite real. I think that Nova Scotia and New Brunswick would be perfect areas to test these kinds of weapons where there's not a lot of science involved. It's just in farm community where there's a lot more superstition going on, and so they won't notice variables that might be important. I think that what you're doing is important. Have you documented this in terms of a package that I might, or others I might have forward on to some scientist friends of mine that might like to add this to their studies? Yeah, until a few weeks ago, my pictures, the autopsy pictures and the documentation was being picked up, had been since 2009, picked up by another YouTube site. And the title was Monarch Project, Torture of Innocent Men, Women, Children, and Animals. And it showed identical, thermal injuries on people. There's a lot more going on right now in this arena than any of us are aware of. And this 5G technology that's springing up everywhere concerns me. And I as an armchair physicist, that means one that does not any longer have access to toys. There's no way I can vet it. And I can Occam's razor, but at this juncture, I'm inequipped to know what to do next. I'm 74, not 64. I don't know who's doing current study. Beal. There is a Dr. Beal in Florida that is very credible and doing what we call dosimetry studies on these frequency bands on biological, organs. There's different frequency bands have toxicity, and they do affect our behavior and our health. And right now,
I am about to see an internal medicine because I have a funny feeling I might be not a targeted individual, but something is happening that's making me sick all the time, and I don't understand it. I know myself pretty well, and I am at a loss. And if I'm at a loss, I can well imagine someone without my academic background not knowing which way to look. It's terrible.
And, basically, anybody who gets the whiff of it and the extent of it and basically starts shouting it from the housetop, that person becomes a target of the same technology.
I have recently, previously, a few years back, I was a target because I knew something I didn't know. It had to do with the trigger mechanism at Carnegie Mellon, and I was writing about it without knowing the full extent of what I was describing as a new weapon. And I had people physically came into my home in front of me trying to wipe my hard drive. I caught both of those individuals, and they were removed, but I had no idea that a sweet old man like me could know something I didn't know and be a threat.
I'm an old man too. I'm 75 years old, but I don't have any intention to be sweet to those perpetrators.
Yeah, that's Yoda, all right. There it is. The attitude. That's the only thing I've got right now to defend myself.
One vital source of information would be, for example, Dr. Barry Trower.
Please send me what you can through, Vincent. I appreciate your time on this. Thank you very much for bringing this up, by the way. I just, I knew that was going on. I just have never had solid enough proof to form some serious arguments, and I'm smart enough to know when I don't know.
Yeah, this is life is it's a lifelong learning process, And what Ronald Reagan was saying when reporters they ask him, you must get overwhelmed with all the information you get. How do you sort it out? And his answer was verify, verify, verify. And in the Bible it says, in the multitude of counselors is wisdom. And we have to use common sense and verify the counsel. Because in the multitude of counselors can be confusion too, if we don't use proper.
Well, this is all stuff that has come out of Tavistock and plausible deniability, what they call gang stalking protocols. I'm familiar with it. It will lead to sickness if you don't armor up.
Yeah, and what I understand, what I've been documenting, it's basically Stone Age technology that had been around for at least the last 50, 60 years. But now, with different frequencies, they can create havoc all through the body and create all kinds of illnesses.
Interrupt sleep. There's a bunch of things that can be done. Yeah. I understand, yeah.
And those are not the frequencies that cause external burns, thermal injury, but those are frequencies that interfere with the electrical impulses that basically make the body function, and the different organs of the body and the brain function properly. It has to be all in balance.
Well, this took a different turn than Vincent and I had planned for the day, but interestingly.
I'm sorry about that. But we have to...
Thanks so much for
your problems with Amazon. There's more going on here, and we're at the tip of an iceberg.
Yeah, that's what it basically is.
What's your weather like happening in New Brunswick today? Are you actually is it unbelievably different than normal?
What do you mean, the weather?
Well, the East Coast would appear to be enjoying a mini day after tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, basically, the ones that are doing all that manipulation, it goes to the head and they want to play gods. And we
had here where I live, 5 days ago, we had 3 inches of snow and yesterday was 75 degrees.
3 inches of snow.
And then it switched in a 4-day period to 75 degrees, yes. We had snow on the coast up near Washington. And I mean, we had snow. It was like coming down hard.
Yeah. And
then it's at 75. How does that work?
It says in the Bible, in the last days, one of those wicked rulers, and he wants to change times and seasons.
Well, the Earth is also rotated slightly, and I think Australia has become the new equator.
Yeah, as I say, we got too many sorcerer's apprentices.
Variables. Too much to be able to actually pin down what's really going on. I'm looking at my sky today, and it should be blue and clear, and yet it is scarred with chemtrails and debris.
The same way here on the East Coast, but a lot of the chemtrails are being laid out by commercial aircraft now.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily that they are a special mission to lay a chemtrail, but they are commercial aircraft, military aircraft. And another interesting part is about a couple of years ago, my wife, she invited me to visit her relatives in British Columbia, and we flew across the continent, and at around 33,000 feet, and we had a Geiger counter with. And up
so
there,
something is going on, and I can't ascertain specifics, and that's what I wished I could do. I'm not able to do that now.
Oh, you can do quite a bit. We got a very simple device. It's where we can detect microwave radiation. And it does not just only come from cell phone towers when people move in the countryside and they think they are getting away from all the microwave radiation like in the city. Think again, because relays are being placed in the forest land on tall trees where they can control a whole area. And even
we're going into a break.
Yeah, okay.
We're going into a break. Hey, Werner, thank you so much for being with us. Dr. Richard Alan Miller is with us. RichardAlanMiller.com. Richard, A-L-A-N, Miller.com. Also, Doc Ram, D-O-C-R-A-M, Ram as in Richard Alan Miller. If you'd like to peruse the websites. I wanted to thank Werner for giving us a call and letting us know what was happening to him regarding directed energy weapons and those kinds of things and his firsthand experiences. So that was very kind of Werner to call in. Rick, just as an aside, I'm at a website called Alliance for Human Research Protection. So, class, if you think that we're making these things up, let me remind you of something that happened in 1944 through 1956. So there was a radioactive nutrition experiment on retarded children by Harvard and MIT. And this was uncovered, and there are documents that were uncovered in 1993 by Scott Allen, a journalist at the Boston Globe, that showed that experiments were conducted on a Fernald, F-E-R-N-A-L-D, center youth. And what happened is radioactive materials were used in the feeding of these young boys. Harvard, the records at the Fernald State School listed these boys as morons. But the researchers from Harvard and MIT called them retarded teenage boys who took part in radiation experiments. And what they did was they fed these young boys radioactive Quaker oat cereal to see what the absorption of plants, minerals, and calcium would be. The parents were never informed that these radioactive elements were involved in the tests. That is, those, now the details of this research effort funded partly by Quaker Oats Company. Let me say that again. funded partly by Quaker Oats Company and the Atomic Energy Commission, it's just unacceptable. Unacceptable. So, did this happen? Yeah, it did. So, do you think that your government is beyond testing on us now with aerosols, biologicals, vaccines, microwaves, long waves, and so forth? I mean, do you think it's not possible? I don't want to leave the farm. As a matter of fact, I don't want to leave the house. But I don't think we're safe anywhere. Some
not
of these
anymore.
weapons.
Not now. Not with the unseen radiation in the atmosphere, just for cell phones and iPod devices.
One of our instructors flew from Europe, went to the West Coast. He was on the air with us, and he brought his radiation detection equipment. And he said that the counts that he was reading on his equipment were multiple times background. And these are on the California beaches, like 1,100 counts per minute.
Yeah, the normal count should be somewhere between 20 and 40 counts a minute. That's what background radiation noise is normally associated. Today, we have RADCON 2, RADCON 3, RADCON 4 level alerts all over the United States, from one thing to another. If it isn't Fukushima, it's a different thing from Hanford, whatever. Indian Point is leaking. Just in the New Madrid fault line where you guys are is just, it's disgusting. I mean, it's an embarrassment. And the bad news is they have no direction. It was all about greed. And they presumed they would have a solution by the time they made their fat wallets. And they don't.
Right now, in our neck of the woods, Missouri and the border with Illinois, RADCON 2, RADCON 3, and RADCON 4 among the highest levels. Now, it'll change in a few minutes, but that's where we are right now. Class, I just want to give you an update. RADCON 4, according to netc.com, Maine and the Missouri-Illinois border. And when I said it was in Oregon, Washington area, no, it's RADCON 3. Okay. So, Rick, George in New Hampshire.
We have all kinds of spikes going on for numerous reasons. I don't know how your internet's working, but mine is running so slow, I sense there might be something happening with our son.
Yeah, ours
The only thing I wanted to mention today as the issue or point I wanted to make is that Amazon has gotten so brazen with me that they are essentially, with intent, screwing me because I'm trying to cause trouble. And so I'm going to say to all those listening to me that there's nothing I'm going to be able to do. Collectively, we can hurt them. It's all about money and the use of Amazon. And if we all stopped using Amazon, they would change. They would change because the whole thing is about making money. And when you realize that many of us, not me, many people have way more money than they need. Way more money. They have huge accounts of savings and IRAs and other kinds of things put away. What is the purpose of greed, wanting more? Now, I'm blessed with knowledge. That is, I have way more knowledge than I need for myself. And so what I do, like a philanthropist, I try to share it. It's my blessing, and ownership is enhanced, shared with another. So my blessings, I try to share them financially, emotionally, other people, all of us have blessings. And it's important for us to recognize what they are and then to try to share them. That's where the blessing truly becomes a blessing, because the value of sharing something is beyond anything. And so I personally wanted to thank many of my listeners who call me every day and try to encourage me to keep going. It's all I can do to want to continue to live. It's terrible. It's affecting my personal life. It's affecting those around me as collateral damage. Amazon, my girlfriend has been patient with Amazon, and they say, things that she wants to hear, and they're going to change this, and they're going to look into that, and then they don't. And then Julie will say, okay, I'd like to speak to your supervisor, and there's a pause, and somebody else comes on and gives their name as the supervisor, and Julie will say, I think not. I recognize your voice as the same person I was just talking to. And that person copped to it. We have that on record. I have physical evidence of them printing on demand with paper trails and everything that would win in a court because we have physical evidence. And I can't find a lawyer. I need a contingency lawyer that is not a maritime lawyer, just a straight copyright lawyer, because FBI will not take it on because it's too small a deal for them. I am attempting to go through my Attorney General's office in the state of Oregon with what we call senior abuse. I need some help. If this person can show and help me, do you realize how wealthy that person will become with just, I have a list of other people that this Amazon is just, they don't even care. Your thing is a $3,000 thing. I can show you $20,000 just my own loss alone, not a little hose. I mean, they're ripping my creativity and profiting on it without paying me a cent and lying to me at the same time, and there's nothing I can do about it. Nothing.
The reason that I read that email on the air, and it's way, way longer than that. The reason I read that is because that is just symptomatic of what's happening. And what can we do about it? So I built what I consider a template for those who want to use those kinds of ideas and solutions to speak out against the big bad machine. That's
it's when we all speak out and join hands in a revolt that only then are we maybe going to get anybody's attention. Because individually, it doesn't matter who I am. They don't care. They actually don't. And actually, in fact, I'm really not very much of anything. I'm just gifted with a little bit of knowledge, but who cares? It's not about knowledge.
Well, here's why I directed the verbiage towards certain individuals in that email. And here's the point, class. If you say that the CEO is responsible for the attitude and position and direction of a company, that's absolutely true. And then if you say that they don't live up to their claims, that's fraud. And then if you say in the same correspondence that the person who did not uphold the tenets of the corporation and the mission statement and the policy, if you say that person should be fired and the CEO should be fired and the board of directors should be fired, when you say things like that, you get their attention.
Well, that means the President of the United States, the Secretary of Congress, and Congress themselves all need to be fired because they're all guilty of exactly everything that you just said. Every single one of them. And it started like Clinton. They're making a big deal about Trump right now, and all these women are coming forward about him having secret sexual affairs. Clinton did it in public.
Yeah, and Larry Nichols.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And
Larry Nichols.
we are supposed to be a representation of the best and finest form of government in the world, and we are the worst bullies.
Yep.
Nothing we're being told is true, and we're ugly. We're ugly Americans.
Did you read the story years ago about Ben Franklin? They were renovating his old home in England, and they were working on the floorboards, and they found a whole bunch of skeletons under the floorboards, and they believe that they were medical experiments he was working on, and he just put the bodies under the floor. Did you read about that?
No, I never did.
Okay, well that's out there.
That's weird.
Yeah. Hey, George called in, George in New Hampshire, USA prepares instructor, and asked if you could describe the Mandela effect for our class today.
I have written about the Mandela effect in an article called The Illusion of Reality, which is an article in Nexus magazine that is 3 parts of a 10-part series, which is Chapter 7 of The Non-Local Mind, which I do not have the money to go to press with. It's ready to go. So I'm putting it out as small pieces of articles. Mandela effect is when our recollection of something appears to be different than what is currently believed and in print. Like the Bernstein Bears as the Bearstein Bears, or Luke, I am your father. That never got said in Star Wars. However, it appeared in a comic book later, and so different generations have a different relationship to Mandela. Is he dead or alive? And that has to do with closed systems, and I explain that timelines are unique for each of us and are different for each of us in the model system I'm using. That means, yes, timelines are changing. Timelines are changing for different people, and I am trying to figure out how I can step outside of that BS and change the movie for myself.
Hey, Rick, okay, let me give you an example. Tell me if this is what the Mandela effect is, as an example.
Well, Mandela, everybody thought he was dead.
Right. Let me give you this example. So when I was growing up, they had television commercials. Only you can prevent forest fires, says Smokey the Bear. Okay, Smokey the Bear. And then, maybe 10 years ago, television commercials came out. It's not Smokey the Bear. It never was Smokey the Bear. Now they're saying it's Smokey Bear. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Is that what we're talking about?
Which one's true?
Well, Smokey the Bear is the true one. No question. I remember.
How come you go film clips from way back when and they're different?
Because they changed them. It was Smokey the Bear.
How about, hey kids, what time is it? Because I'm Buster Brown. I live in a shoe. And this is my dog Tide, and he does too.
There you go. See, a lot of
confabulation of memory. It is the brain is changing things because time is not real.
All right, Rick. Let's bash one more.
Wait a minute. If time is not real, then how do timelines change? There you go. How does that woman rip a car door off? Oh, it's a saber daughter. Oh, it's adrenaline. No, the bone in her body is not strong enough to rip steel. So how does that work? And that's what I'm trying to say. We're focused on the wrong distraction, and we're missing the true issue of variables and what's involved here. If time is not real, then Mandela effect has a different meaning than if it is real. And I can show you that a child's experience of time is quite different than yours or mine.
Rick, there's let me just read this very quickly. Scientists who defend radiation and other ethically dubious human experiments on persons who are incapable of refusing do so from an elitist position of superiority. They continue to harbor the eugenic ideology which regards human beings not of their class as a means to an end. Class, I just want to let you know I'm going to dump Facebook. So what we're going to have to do is use the website USA Preparedness to let you know. Yes, I'm here. I'm going to dump Facebook, and I'm going to tell you how to do it after I test it. I'll tell you the procedure the right way. So you may want to just hold off a little bit if you want to hear what I have to say about how I'm going to dump it and if it works for me. And I want to let you know, Rick, CenturyLink, the worst telecommunications company on the planet, the same one you are forced to use because that's all there is. I decided, and I mentioned this on the air, that I was going to discontinue the automatic bill payment where they reach into my bank account and take money from my bank account, the amount that they think I should pay. Well, I called them up and I said, hey, I've decided we're not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to authorize you to take money out of my account. Even though you give me a $10 discount, I am not going to let you reach in. They said, okay. After 2 phone calls, they agreed to stop it. Well, what they did was they stopped it, and then they didn't send me a bill. Okay? They didn't send me a bill in the mail. Then, without sending me a bill, they charged me a late fee for not paying the bill they didn't send me. Class, when these kinds of things happen, you call them up and you let them know that it's unacceptable, and you demand that they reverse these charges. And that's what I do.
3 different months to finally get that nonsense you just described fixed with CenturyLink with me.
Yes, it's horrible. Okay, next topic, Rick. So what I'm saying in class is, if there's any takeaway from this class today, it is complain, make noise, make a scene. Don't get yourself arrested. Don't use profanity, but make noise and cause these guys to pay attention to you. That's as nicely as I can put it. And that's what I do from now on everywhere I go. So here's where we're headed, class. So there was this jerk, and he was behind the wheel of an Uber vehicle. And so he says that he was leaving a San Francisco grocery store. And the Uber app on his phone told him to take this particular path. So what does he do? He drives down a walkway. He drives down an outdoor stairway where people could be walking. He drives his car down the stairs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 stairs. And he blames it on Uber. Now, there's a whole bunch of points to this. One is, how can this happen? If he didn't have this app, do you think he would drive his vehicle down the stairs? We are allowing ourselves to be controlled by technology. Now, if you were walking up the stairs and this guy ran over you, whose fault would it be? Would it be yours for walking up the stairs and not seeing the car flying down the stairs? Or would it be the driver's fault? Or is it Uber's fault? Uber already killed a person. We got to stop this nonsense. We got to stop by flying by technology, driving by technology. It's got to stop. And the people who are foisting this headless technology on us, the driverless cars, are telling us it's coming, whether you like it or not. Whether you like it or not, we are the villagers. We're in charge. Let's stop it. Rick, do you have any comments?
I'm not going to take it anymore. Yeah, that's how it is,
Took
man.
the words. Yes, I'm serious. I can't stand it.
Yeah. By the way, the Mandela effect is another example of individuals with no background trying to blame something they don't understand, CERN, on changing history, which it isn't. The things that are changing history is Congress. And I think we should fire all of it. I'm very disappointed in our leadership in America. Across the board, right on down to local.
Alleged leadership.
Alleged leadership. Thank you. I needed that. Yes.
Rick, we didn't talk about anything we want to talk about today, and we're just furious, and we're just not going to take it. Class, I suggest that you don't take it either. And the little people, behind the counters that work for the government, organizations that are in your way, I don't think you have to be nice to them anymore. They are the problem because they are following directions. without questioning the directions. Let them know you're not happy. Thanks, Rick.